build up to the first 2 weeks that we looked at of what volunteerism is and how it's of a benefit to us. And so today, week 3, we'll be looking at designing change, project with purpose, designing change, project with purpose. And we have a very good qualified facilitator that will be doing justice to this topic today. So in the house this afternoon, we have Mr. Osazee Isonarae. I hope I pronounced that right, but pardon me if I do not. So please, I want to implore all of us to be very attentive to today's topic. And facilitator, just to let you know, we have participants from across the nation. So it's a national event. All our spaces, about 28 of our spaces across the country, down to Zaria, Maiduguri, Duse, Benin City, Enugu, Oka, Ibadan, across the nation. So as you can see from the screen, you see all the spaces, people are already seated and more are coming in. So at this point, I would like to hand over to my colleague Josephine, who will take the next um, program that we have for today. Thank you. Josephine, over to you.
Everyone. So I'm going to read his bio. Osazee Isonarae is a community development strategist, a digital transformation advocate. He is a U.S. Department of State's International Visitors Leadership Program (IVLP) Exchange Fellow and a seasoned program development professional with extensive experience in designing and implementing youth-focused and community-driven projects. As a team lead for Youth Resource Center, he has led multiple initiatives across Nigeria, such as Tech Rise, Safe Cyber, and Biz Growth initiatives, focusing on digital literacy, entrepreneurship, and social impact. With a strong background in strategic stakeholder engagement and digital innovation, Osazee has worked with local and international partners to empower young people to drive change and build sustainable solutions for their community. With a round of applause, let's welcome Osazee as he takes the floor.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Josephine, for the brief bio, and thank you, the leadership of American Spaces Nigeria. I hope I'm audible. Yeah, Josephine, I hope I'm audible. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
We can hear you.
All right. So I'd like to express my appreciation to the leadership of the U.S. mission and the American Spaces for having me speak on this very interesting topic. Like I always say, this is one of my most interesting topics, and I always love to talk about, conversations. I like to be involved with conversations that has to do with volunteerism, especially in this part of the world. And I hope that across the various corners, spaces, windows where I'm being heard currently, I hope our young people will find this very, very helpful and be able to make good use of all of the insights and experiences that I'll be sharing this afternoon. So I'd like to share my screen briefly. So okay. So Josephine, please, I'm requesting to share my screen. Thank you. Right. Okay. Okay, just a minute. All right, I hope you can see my screen. So designing change, projects with purpose. And then I gave it a little more definition to the specific area that I'll be looking into, particularly from good intentions to high impact volunteerism. Once again, my name is Osazee Isonarae, and a few words have been said about me. I believe that if you want to check out some of the things I've done or to know me better, you could just check me out online. Osazee Isonarae. I'm also the team lead for Initiative for Youth Resource Center. I would like to start by redefining or reframing what volunteerism is. There's been a lot of concepts, a lot of definition, dimensions, but I'd like you to just take a moment to look through what you have on your screen. And I'd like you to reflect on these myths and also the quote by Mahatma Gandhi, because that would, to a large extent, shape what we'll be discussing today. All right. It says volunteerism is not what you do when you have spare time or excess money. Okay, that looks like a myth, and it's what you do because you are human and because you have eyes to see, ears to hear, and a heart that cares. Okay, so volunteerism is not just for the philanthropist. Volunteerism is not just for those who had made money or had made wealth and then they are now ready to just give back. Okay, and so Mahatma Gandhi says that the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of order. I think that goes a long way to really give a broad definition to the concept of volunteerism, to give a bigger picture to the concept of volunteerism and why you should begin to think, this way. And you want to wonder why strategic volunteerism matters. Why should we volunteer? Okay, and particularly for this in this part of the world where service, to humans are misinterpreted for many things. Number one, Nigeria and many developing nations face deep-rooted problems. Okay, and so we're looking at strategic volunteerism, right, and not just volunteerism, and why this really matters. Okay, so you're looking at the deep-rooted problems that we have within our country and several other developing countries. Take, for example, unemployment, insecurity, poor education, tech illiteracy. And so not just volunteering to do a thing or to help out in any of these areas, but then strategic volunteerism becomes very, very critical. Ensuring that you are doing something that really counts become very, very important. And again, the government cannot do this alone. Government can't solve all of the problem, even though we have very high expectation, for government, to solve certain problems. But there is a whole lot of issues around us, very deep issues in our communities. If you come out from your house, take a walk, 5 minutes walk, there's a whole, wherever you live across Nigeria, there's a whole lot that you could see around you that your active participation, your active, your passion, the need for you to pay closer attention to those issues becomes very, very critical as well. And of course, strategic volunteerism will help you shift from pity to productivity, and also from mere talking to taking action. Our young people, speak about a lot of issues today across the nation. I mean, from no job, from to bad governance, poor policies, insecurity, talk about the killings in Benue, our educational infrastructure, poor education, tech illiteracy. These are a lot of conversations going on our social media, a lot of conversations. And many young people are very angry about some of these issues. And so strategic volunteerism will help you, rather from just mere talking and getting angry unnecessarily, it will help you, transition into taking action when this is well understood, especially when you also see it as a way of developing yourself. All right. So I'd like to start again by looking at some key points that we could look at in identifying real community needs. So when we talk about these issues around us, sometimes it could just be as bogus in several conversations, but we really need to drive it down and look at it, in details. How do you truly identify, challenges and needs within you? Because sometimes the things you may think their need may not necessarily be need in those communities. So it's important for you to learn how to truly identify what are the most challenging things in that particular community where you may want to render some volunteering support. Key points: observe with intention. There's a need to take time to observe. You need to spend time in the community and talk to people. You need to be available in that community at a certain point in time. Even if you don't live there, you need to go there and talk to people who live in that community. You cannot live in Lagos all the days of your life and try to solve a problem in Osogbo or try to solve a problem, in Ekiti, when you don't understand how the people, relate with that problem there. And then attend events within that community, attend events organized by that community, visit their schools, go to the schools to understand what exactly is happening in those places, visit their marketplaces, visit their hospitals, go to religious worship centers that are in that community. These are places where you will find people and where you will find them having their challenges, because you need to identify real community needs. You need to identify real problems, not just hearsay problems, not just problems that you picked from the newspaper, not just problems reported, by somebody else. If you really want to build something sustainable, then you have to identify, real community needs. And so listen actively and ask yourself, number one, what are the everyday struggles here? What are people finding difficult to do? What are people complaining about? What are the challenges that people go through every day? Okay. And secondly, what do they complain about consistently? Every time you meet people in the community, they keep talking about it. They keep wishing the government remembers them in this area. They keep wishing they have someone who could do something like this. They keep wishing, all right? They keep complaining about it consistently. And then number three, you now need to look at what are the solutions that have already been tried in this regard. Are there people who have tried to do things in this community before? Are there people who came from several places, maybe certain places, to try to attempt to solve the problem? Maybe it wasn't really done in the right way. So you need to explore, some of the things, that possibly had been done before. In academics, we call it literature review, right? For those of you who are in academics. So you really need to understand if there were people and if there were things that have been done in this regard before. And the key point here is to use available data as well. Explore local government reports, NGO reports, survey tools like Google Forms to collect community insight. Again, without necessarily starting to do a project or starting to solve any problem, you could just design a Google form to better understand what those people are really going through. And you can go ask them questions or design this form and share it across maybe their WhatsApp group, their religious WhatsApp groups, just to help you understand what these challenges truly are. And of course, you need to read widely. You need to read NGO reports. You need to read news. You need to read local government reports, particularly NGO reports. If there are people who have done something around this environment before, you will definitely find it very useful, when you go through those reports and read widely about those issues that they're also talking about. So all of this will really help you identify real community needs. Again, observation and empathy. I've said that you should go where the people are and listen with interest. Now, don't just assume. There are many people who assume a lot. There are many people who think that, I think when I give people money in this area, they will do well. Sometimes it is not money that people really need. Sometimes it is just a skill that they need. All right. And so you need to rewind and ask relevant questions. And so avoid assuming that everybody in Lagos, need to be ICT literate, or, avoid assuming things like, women in Ibadan are already business tycoon. You don't need to have, assume that. You've got to observe, and read widely to understand this issue. Let me give some few case scenarios about my own experiences. One of our main projects that we started with sometime 2015, far back 2015, was initially called ICT Retreat, and later rebranded to what we call Tech Rise. Now, when I went for my NYC about 13, 14 years ago, thereabout, in Osun State, in Osogbo, I realized that I needed to, understand the people of Osogbo and see how best I could help in solving one or two problems I may find there. So I went to the schools, particularly where I was posted to teach mathematics, Osogbo Grammar School, for example. And sometime I served in 2012. And when I was in Osogbo, I was teaching mathematics in about 7 arms of the school. And I decided to ask the pupils, because as at then there was not like computer systems in the school. So I decided to ask the people if they know what a computer system is. And of course, they were able to define a computer system for me. Oh, a computer system, is an electronic machine, that receives input, processes it, and gives that output. They just kind of rehearsed that. And then I raised up my laptop, my tablet as a day, not a laptop. I raised up my tablet and I said to SS2 students, is this a computer system? They said, no, this is not a computer system. Now, this was because all they knew as computer system was, the big picture on their textbooks, the mainframe, the big CPUs, and all that. So I realized from that point that it was necessary for me to start doing something to help bridge this digital divide. Because as at then, most big cities already were ICT literate. So I started what we call ICT Club, which later metamorphosed to what we now call Tech Rise, which is a boot camp and an ICT competition across Osun State, today. And of course, when we're going to develop that further, we went deep into WAEC report. We had to go and read reports from WAEC, because whatever you're doing, whatever volunteering work you are involving yourself with, you've got to prove to everyone that this is something that you have truly researched to see that is a real need, is a need that was documented. So I went to check WAEC. I realized that the percentage of people who were taking courses in fishery and several other courses were so high compared to those who were taking courses, registering for courses like data processing, and computing. So that became a very strong motivation for us to continue to do what we're doing with Tech Rise. Number two, Biz Growth, initiative. We had a collaboration with the US mission about 2 years ago on digital marketing for people in rural areas. They are very quality, good Gary, Gary and several food items that you can find in rural communities by young people. And I realized that if they have the power of social media, they will be able to sell their products, everywhere across the world. So that gave birth to a project that we called, that we did. It was titled Brand Boost. Later, changed to Biz Growth, because a mobile application is coming out from that project, currently. Again, once we have identified that problem, of course, this was, physical inspection of the environment. And I just saw that a lot of young people were in these communities, trying to do a lot of agricultural works around. And I realized that they do not have the technical know-how, they don't have that expertise to promote their businesses or their product on the social media. And of course, I knew what that would do if they are able to do that. It's going to increase their profit, definitely. And they cannot afford paying, experts to do that for them. So we went into the archive of SMIDAN and we started studying, and we realized that there was SMIDAN, had done a work, a research, that puts, the small business owners as very, as digitally illiterate. when it has to do with social media. And so we picked that report and we started exploring it, coupled with the physical inspections that we have had, in some of the places we have been to in those rural communities. And that, of course, gave way to brand boost. And of course, by the time we were calling for partnership, it was easier to also get partnership because we had our data. We were not just talking because of what we saw in the community, but we had data to back up, whatever needs that we had seen. And finally, for Safe Cyber, that's our most recent project, we had to go into EFCC. Our motivation for Safe Cyber project was for our young people. We realized that a number of our young people after secondary school were delving into, internet crimes, and we felt that, look, apart from our digital literacy that we do to help these young people, it's important that we help them see the challenges, around when they get apprehended, the law and all of that. So we had to go to Ibadan, EFCC Ibadan region, and we started collaborating with them, getting information from them to understand how deep these issues are. So the point again is that these reports and insights, from WAEC, from SMIDAN, from EFCC, and all of those, background information, coupled with what we have seen, shaped our digital literacy curriculum, and it made all of these projects, very successful and still being sustained. So the goal is to identify root causes and not just the symptoms. All right. So of course you want to help, you want to do something for the community, but how well do you really understand the project that you want to do? You've got to prove beyond every reasonable doubt that you understand the need and you understand what you really, are out to do. Now, designing your passion into purpose-driven projects. What do you need to do when you have found, what you're looking at? You have carried out your researches and all that. Then you need to ask yourself, what problem moves me emotionally? Because it is not all the problems that exist in a community that you can solve. You are tailor-made to certain, problems, to certain projects that you can really do. So you need to ask yourself the questions about what are the things that moves you emotionally. Just before we started this session, a friend of mine who is from Benue State, she shared a post recently, and it was a basket of blood with, some people weeping. And she said the basket of the nation has become the basket of blood. Now, I saw how passionately she shared that thought. I hope to reach out to her after now. She's very touched because she's from Benue State, even though she doesn't live there right now. She lives somewhere in Kogi. But that moved her very emotionally. That's a huge problem. That is a problem. Do you want to look at, a solution in that regard? Do you want to begin to think about a project in that regard? How do you help to solve that problem? Now you have seen this problem, you can now begin to go into archives to go and study how many lives have been lost within a short period of time. Then if that moves you emotionally, then you should know that this is something you should begin to work on. Number two, what skill or resource do you have? What trainings do you have? Do you have certain skills that will help you carry out this volunteering project? And if you don't, there's a need for you to look out for opportunities to be trained. The kind of training that is being organized by American Spaces Nigeria today is a very powerful training, I must say. I wish I had this when I was much, much younger. All right. And I want to encourage as many young people who are going through this course to take it very seriously, because you are hearing things that would forever change your destiny. It may look so casual. It may look just like another, it's just a workshop. It's just, let's just go and listen. Let's just go and fill the spaces. No, I want to encourage you that you take seriously all of the things you hear from these sections. Unfortunately, in this part of the world, especially in Nigeria, when things are given for free, people don't really value it. But I want to believe that our young people will value this opportunity. So the third thing you need to think about is, who can I team up with? Who can I team up with? Of course, you really can't do this alone, okay? You need to look out for, people that can support you. I remember for the ICT clubs we started while I was serving in Osun State then, I only had one laptop. So it became a problem when the young people, the children, the SS1, SS2 students, they will crowd me with my laptop. It becomes very difficult to teach them anything, with the sweat and sometimes with the heat and everything. Very, very not so convenient anyway. So I started talking with some of my friends, and I realized that they were equally very passionate about this. And I was able to, engage some of my friends who had their laptops to come on board. Some also borrowed us their laptop before we were able to purchase laptops and do this, on a bigger scale. So these three things are very important in helping you to design whatever passion that you have into a very purpose-driven, volunteering project. Again, what problem moves you emotionally? You've got to define that. What are the things that really touch you? Because if you go in line with that, then you're going to submit all your energy in ensuring that you do that very well. Even when you don't have funding, even when you don't have people supporting you, you keep doing it, irrespective. Number two, what skill or resource do you have? You really need to be trained in that regard. You need to have equip yourself with tools, all right? And you should register for as much as you can, just like this training you are having now. Number three, who can you really team up with? You can't really keep operating alone. You definitely need to have some support system, some people who can volunteer with you as well. And of course, there's an impact equation I put there. It says passion plus planning plus people equals purpose. So when you bring your passion together into your planning, with your skills and all of that, together with people that you're able to pull on board, you would definitely have purposeful driven project. And of course, we have this very popular concept that we use in measuring, projects. It's called SMART, the SMART principle. So I think a lot of us know about it, but I'll just say a few things about it. So whatever you now come up with at the end of the day has to be a SMART project. Your project has to be smart when designing. All right, number one is specific. What exactly are you solving? You've got to be very, very specific. I've also said that I've made some examples, something that that it touches you emotionally. Keep it very specific. Don't say I want to do good for the young people in Ibadan. That's not being specific. You've got to be very specific about what kind of good do you want to do. Okay, I want to solve the problem of digital illiteracy among 5 different schools, in Ibadan. You're speaking very smart like right now. Okay, so measurable. What change do you want to see? How do you measure, that change you want to? You got to be able to measure it. Like the example I just gave. Okay, I'm currently in Ibadan right now. I'm saying I want to bridge the digital literacy gap in government public schools, for 5 different public schools. All right, you've measured it. You've measured what you really want to see. That at the end of your project, you want to see at least 5 different schools. You can break it down by saying just the prefects of those schools, for example. Okay, A is achievable. Achievable says what's realistic within your means. Okay, so you don't carry out a project that is very bogus. For example, you say you want to do a project for the first time, you are volunteering for the first time, and you say you don't have people to support you, and you want to train 200 people, all right, 200 teachers within 3 days, and you are just maybe you and your partner, 2 of you don't have what it takes, you don't have the resources. That's not really achievable. You have to look at a project that is very achievable within your scope, within the confines of your resources, at least to start with. Of course, then ROM is relevant. Does it truly matter to the community? There are problems you try to solve in a particular community that are not relevant, and you're trying to initiate and solve that problem, and people are looking at you. What are you trying to do? Pour it inside an ocean. Nobody will appreciate you for that. So it has to be relevant. And that's where the issue of reading wide, engaging with the people, listening, to understand what the people really feels. Okay. And then time bound. When do you expect, this change to happen? When you're designing your project, you've got to have, we also have what we call specific timelines. What are your timelines? How do you want to measure this to ensure that you're able to carry out everything within the specific time that you hope to carry them out? All right, so these are a few thoughts in making high impact. Number one, I'm not sure.
Let's be patient. Simi has network issues.
I don't know what happened, but I guess you know what happened. So yeah,
Right.
well, that's a problem anyway. So I hope someone wants to take this as a problem. So you have experiences. All right, you're in the middle of an interview and off your internet is gone, even when you use whatever you call the best of the internet. Okay, I'm sorry for that break, but I think we can continue. So
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Osazee, can you put your slide on slide mode?
oh, okay. Just a minute. I'm using the.
Or you can click on F5 and see.
I'm using a system. Yeah. Does it make sense now?
Oh, better. Perfect.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So sorry about that. I think I was on the slide here. Okay. I think we're through with this, please. I think we were here, right? Oh, we've done smart. Okay. I think we were here. All right. So, few thoughts about making high impact. Number one, you need to understand that volunteer projects are not just small projects. Like I said at the beginning, it's not just wanting to do something. They are seed efforts. They are seed efforts. My philosophy about volunteering is that nobody can really pay me for my volunteering efforts. No American dollar or pounds or whatever can truly pay for my volunteer efforts. I just believe that only God can truly pay for the good things that I did. So, because I believe it's a seed. So volunteer efforts are actually seed efforts. They are seeds that grows to become something very massive that you may not even know about. I've been to several places, where I hear young people talk to me and say, "Oh, you taught me ICT sometime in school," and I'm so excited about it. I'm just so excited about it. So you need to see volunteer efforts as seed efforts, and that's why you shouldn't be thinking about money, at the first instance. Okay, you should be thinking about impact, thinking about making a very high impact that grows to become something huge and something big that truly solves, an obvious problem, in a particular community. And then you could use storytelling and visuals to increase community buy-in. Again, when carrying out projects, you need people's buy-in. I remember there was a school that we wanted to do an ICT club many years ago, I think 2012, when I was still serving a particular school. And I realized that, so the people have a problem and they don't know that they have the problem. The school, the students were not excited. And so we are here with our laptops to train them, once every week, and they don't come. So we had to look at for incentives. We had to look at do some kind of storytelling, engage them in such a way that they could find solutions very interesting, of course. And then we had to also speak to school management, to also talk to them. We going to a school to just talk to them about community impact is completely different from when the principal of that school is talking to them, about the need for them to attend our program. So use storytelling and visuals to increase community buy-in, and of course, build project teams. Don't work alone. I said, yeah, even Jesus had 12 disciples. Of course, he had 12 disciples. He wasn't working alone. So build a project team. Begin to build people around yourself that you think they share the same value and the same concerns, that you share. Case reference is Beast Growth in Osogbo. Now, when we did the Beast Growth, initially we called that project Brand Boost, where we're brand boosting the businesses of people from rural communities. So we trained them about 4 months. in digital marketing skills and all of that. But it wasn't just a training; it was creating jobs, increasing income, and digitalizing local economies. And today, that brand boost project have metamorphosed into a mobile application we are launching very soon that it's called Biz Growth, that will help us continue to do that without us necessarily going to Shobo or going to wherever we did that project before. So these are very important when thinking about making a very high impact. Now, sustaining your project. Number one, budgeting smartly. A lot of times, there are very unrealistic budgets attached with several projects that I have reviewed. I've been privileged to review some projects, and I've been involved with a number of projects beyond the one done by my organization. And I realized that especially in our country, it is usually very unrealistic budgets, accompanying projects that are supposed to be volunteering projects. That's the goal. It is expected to be a volunteering project, because the understanding that we must have is that when you're designing budget and you're calling for people to support you, you've got to realize that it's partnership. It's not you just writing something and then people bringing money on top of it. You are a stakeholder in it. You've got to design it in such a way that it will be clear that you're going to be very prudent with spending the funds, that will be available for the project. So you can have in-kind support, you can have local resources, which I always encourage. First, look at for local resources. What are those local resources that you think can help you, with your volunteering process? For example, you need to speak to girls about, menstrual hygiene or something. So before you start asking for money, have you secured a venue with your relationship, or with your father's influence or somebody's influence around you? Have you secured a venue? So explore those local resources first of all, and then family and friends. Okay. And then you can delve into crowdfunding, and then you can start writing, for grants, for larger organizations, to fund you. But the goal here is to keep your budget very, very smart. Okay. And ensure that it's not unrealistic. Number two, partnerships. If you're dealing with people like students, for example, it's important for you to either go to Ministry of Education for public schools or go to private schools associations. This will help you, sustain whatever you are bringing beyond the period of your project. You may be surprised that this, school, the people you are partnering with may decide to make the project an annual event. And then that becomes something very good for you. And then faith-based organizations as well. Talk about NYC, the National Youth Service Corps. You can equally go to them for partnerships, because this is where you find people, and this is also where you find volunteers. I have recruited a lot. I think a larger percentage of my volunteers and remote workers who work for me, I get them from NYC. So you can look at that sector for partnerships as well, especially on volunteering projects, to help you, maximize whatever little budget you may have to make that impact you need to make. So create a volunteer culture, inspire people, and plan, to give ownership to them. Personally, I love to see ideas that are maybe generated by a single individual, but over the time, the community begin to own that idea, all right, such that even when that particular individual have relocated, that solution or that idea that was invented is sustained by the people who are there. So that's something that you want to think about along the line of your volunteering processes, to create a volunteer culture, a mentorship culture. And then last one I have here is a continuity strategy: train, document, and transition leadership. Learn to train people about what you're already doing. So when you have people joining you, to do what you're doing, keep training them, document whatever you do, and then have a plan for transition leadership, because you wouldn't be there all along. So you're a successful leader if you have people who will do exactly what you started doing, and maybe even do it much more better than you. How to move your intentions to actions. So number one, we don't need more big talk. We need brave doers. Like I said when I was starting, there's a lot of talks. There's a lot of people are angry. Young people are angry. There's a lot of big talks. And when you give people an opportunity to talk about the issues in Nigeria, they're going to speak a lot, very bogus conversations. If you give people to come up with, alternative ideas and solutions, you may not find, brave, talkers in that regard. You may not find so many brave talkers. So let's give more attention to what we are looking at. Let's give more attention to the doing rather than just joining the people to talk. I tell you, you can really do something from wherever you are. Number two, one thoughtful act of volunteerism can transform not only your community, but your destiny. I am a living witness to the blessings of volunteerism. I could say that my professional growth and my growth generally has been because I started doing this early enough, and I would like to appreciate the U.S. mission, particularly for my first exchange program I attended, 2015. I was privileged to be selected among the pioneer cohort of the Young African Leaders Initiative, even though I've had other exchange program, the International Visitor Leadership Program. But you see, my 2015 experience, was the game changer for me. It really changed my destiny because that was the first cohort for Young African Leaders Initiative and Regional Leadership Center, and we were taken to Accra, Ghana, and we met with several presidents. We met with several people who were doing some volunteering work across West Africa. I was so inspired when I met an 18-year-old girl who was speaking about what she was doing in her community. And since 2015, I came back. I have never stopped volunteering for several communities. And this has really shaping my destiny. It has shaping my life. And I could say to you as well that, for example, I received my first car, as a gift. While I was volunteering, I did a boot camp for some secondary school students. I was training them on. And when I finished that boot camp, a man came and was so impressed with what we did, and he handed over me a car. I mean, I've heard people say they gifted them car, but I received my first car, from volunteering work. So I can say that this act of volunteering can transform not only our community or our nation, it can change your destiny. All right. And I'd like you to challenge yourself. Say over the next 2 weeks, pick one issue that you can find within your environment. Design a small project around it. Just start anyhow and learn through the process. You can always improve on it and keep repeating it. I can tell you, I kept practicing and learning how to really carry out community projects, how to, do your survey, how to, get the needs of the people, interviewing people and all that. If I find anybody who was doing anything like that, I run to the meeting. Can I volunteer with you? Can I do something for you? So it's very, very important for you to pay closer attention to challenging yourself over these next 2 weeks as we round up this session. And in my final words, this is something I like saying a lot when it has to do with the development space, when it has to do with volunteering and carrying out community projects generally. I like to say that motive is like pregnancy, hidden at first, but it always shows in time. Over the time, there are a lot of people talking about even volunteerism who deep down, when you get to see their motives, you could run away. So let our intentions and motives be genuine. Let it be sincere. You truly want to design a project to solve a problem in your community, not just because you heard that some people are winning some grants. Let that not be your motivation for going to volunteerism. Not just because you heard that there's a big stipend attached to volunteerism. Let that not become your motivation, because when it is not there, you won't be motivated. And of course, let not the big funding also be your motivation. So I'd like to take a pause here, and then we'll welcome questions and comments. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Osazee. Okay, so at this point, I would like us to welcome Dr. Edwin Aram from Enugu Window in America to anchor the next session.
Thank you very much, Mr. Samuel, for the opportunity. And first of all, I want to say a very big thank you to our resource person. Personally, I learned a lot from what you said, especially as it relates to partnering with others in volunteerism, especially as it relates to building network and getting a team with which you can work. And I know that others have learned so much. So this is an opportunity to every one of us. Please, if you have any question, please indicate. If you have any question, indicate. Then some people can also put theirs in the chat box.
So, Mr. Osazee, please, can you stop sharing, please?
Okay, I can see a question. US Embassy, Abuja. Please go first, and then after that, we take Uyo Window on America. So, American Center, Abuja, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
My name is Nkachi Kingsley. Just want to ask on the part where you talked about ownership. Can you elaborate more on that, especially to the volunteers and also to the community? And then, how can one establish a sustainable plan if you're going to be transferring ownership to them after the project or service in the community?
Yeah, I didn't hear the second question very well, but
okay, Abuja, please repeat your question.
I mean, how can one create a sustainable plan? You know, like when the project is done or whatever service one is doing within the community, because you're going to be transferring it now to the volunteers or the community. Remember, vision lies with the initiator or the inventor, but when you leave, we then carry out such vision like you had when you started. So how can one establish that sustainable plan when transferring ownership? Thank you.
All right, our resource person, before you go ahead, would you want to take all the questions together or do you want to answer them one after the other? Which one would be most convenient for you?
Well, if we have the time, maybe we take it while they come, so we don't leave anyone untouched. But if that's okay by you, that's fine. It's okay by me.
Okay, that's fine. Kindly proceed, sir.
Okay, so when talking about sustainable projects and how do you transition? How do you transition and possibly, hand over to the community so that ownership, it becomes something that the community, does with or without your presence, if I understand the question. Yeah, of course, it's a vision, it's an idea that came to you, but if you carry the community along from the very onset, that'll be very, very helpful. That's the first thing. In everything you're going to do, let the community be part of the design process and the implementation process. So when you are starting with your questionnaires, you're starting with your Google Forms, you are engaging with them, you are relating with them, and you're trying to find out, to talk with the people in the community to understand, what their issues are. At one point or the other, you should bring in conversations about your intentions to try to bridge that gap, to try to solve that problem. So, and get their buy-in. So by so doing, you are already sharing the vision and you are already planning your handing over strategies. Number two, you should look at for institutions that are relevant to the project. For example, you are doing something that has to do with business or entrepreneurship. you should want to begin to open conversations with people like SMIDA, the Small and Medium Enterprise Development Agency of Nigeria. You are doing something that has to do with secondary school or young girls in secondary school, whatever. You should begin to think about ministries, state ministries of education. You're doing something that has to do with digital literacy. You're doing something, just think about it. There should be one or two institutions that are very relevant when it comes to that solution that you're having. Create partnership with them and be the bridge between that institution and the community. These two, steps will help you in ensuring that when you are done with the project, the community, of course, coupled with mentorship and training of those persons, some of the persons you have been working with, it will make it easier for the vision to be sustained and domiciled in that community. I hope that's satisfactory enough. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, thank you very much. We now go to Uyo Window on America. Please, Uyo, unmute yourself and ask your question. Enugu, get ready. After Uyo, Enugu.
Thank you very much. My question is, how can you tell that a budget is not smart? And what should be the right motives for volunteerism? And also, when professionalism and volunteerism are combined, what can you do when it creates a money problem?
Okay. Thank you very much. That's a smart one. And especially the last question, how do you tell that budgets are smart? And then when profession and volunteerism, combines, how do you solve the money problem, right? Okay, I didn't get the second one. Sorry, I'm not with a pen. I should have brought my pen to write. What's the second one, please?
Motives for volunteerism. What should be the right motives for volunteerism? Okay,
let me start from the second one. The right motive for volunteerism, like I said from my last slide, from the last slide I shared, I said motive is like pregnancy, it shows over time. Your motive for volunteerism should be wanting to solve a problem, service to humanity. You just want to solve problem. All right, that's your motive. Just like the motive of doing business is to make profit. The motive of volunteerism is service, nothing but service, to solve a problem that is very evident. All right. And you ensure that your budget is smart. Of course, you ensure your budget is smart by ensuring that everything that is needed is documented. For example, in your budget, you shouldn't say things like, there's this word that you use, miscellaneous. That's not an acceptable word in budget. Whatever you intended to have in miscellaneous must be broken down. If it is sachet water for 20 naira, write it there. If it is photocopy of paper, write it there. So your budget is smart when every single thing, everything that has to do with the project is well documented and it is not out of proportion. It's not blown out of proportion. All right. And then your final question that has to do with the place of money when professionalism or when profession, joins with volunteerism. I mean, probably when for business join with not for business, if I use that word. So how do you solve, the problem of money? So these are very two different things. Okay. If you're working, and you're doing something for pay, it has to be clear. It doesn't mean that you cannot solve problems, without volunteering. You can equally solve a lot of problems, without necessarily volunteering by initiating a business idea. Take, for example, the mobile application OPay that you use. I mean, it's solving a problem, but it's a business-oriented, solution. The person who invented the idea did not invent the idea just to give it for free. It invented the idea, for pay. It's for business. But most times when we talk about volunteering, it's majorly about doing something that you see as a need without asking people to pay for it. Take, for example, there are some people who are volunteering to make sure the training you are having is successful. I am sure that there are people who are not paid to help to moderate the session, to help to arrange the chairs you are seated on. You can volunteer to clean your classroom without asking your colleagues to pay monthly money or touching your monthly contributions for it. So these are acts of volunteering. You can look at the environment, in your school, and it's always dirty. And once every week, you can decide to go clean up those places. So that's the difference between, this concept. But it has to be very, very clear, whatever your motive is. If you really want to do something, yes, it's a solution, and you want to be paid for it, be very clear about it. Okay. But if you are volunteering to do a project and say, okay, you are not going to be paid, to carry out this project, you are volunteering to ensure that this project is a success, then be very clear about it. And don't be offended when you don't get paid or when you don't get anything at all. All right. I hope I answered your question correctly, and I hope that's satisfactory. Thank you very much. That was a good one. Any
Thank
other
you very much, sir.
question?
Yes, we now go to Enugu. Please, participants are free to use the chat box. So while some ask their questions live, others can make use of the chat box. We go to Enugu now. Enugu, unmute and ask your question.
All right, sir. The first question I want to ask is, for people that are willing to volunteer in probably the tech space, are there institutions who are interested in supporting? Because at some point in trying to volunteer in issues like this, it's usually capital intensive. So that's one. And then the second I want to also ask is, okay, I think let's go with this for now, sir.
Okay, so thank you very much. Well, it's not in all cases. Well, I don't know what you really mean by being capital intensive, but it's usually not in all cases where you have volunteering capital intensive. A larger percentage of volunteering jobs, usually you don't need to pay anything to volunteer, except there are people, maybe internships. Maybe you mean internships where you want to learn. But if you say you see a volunteer opportunity and you would like to volunteer, most times you are not required to pay. And then talking about opportunities, well, I would like to give you that assignment too. You can Google. There's a whole lot of volunteering opportunities around the tech space. You go to Google. You could use ChatGPT as well. You could ask AI to help you with organizations within Nigeria. You could even mention your state, and I'm sure AI is going to do a perfect job in giving you a lot of options of organizations who are putting out opportunities for volunteering. For example, there are a lot of people around you who will be needing the services of people who can help them do graphic design and they cannot pay. Maybe you have a skill, in graphic design, and you could, use that skill. I'm sure there are people around you could help. They're probably your school or anybody around who you think may not have the resources to pay for that skill, and then you can give it, for free. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, sir. We have another question.
Please go ahead.
Good day, sir. I wanted to know how one can identify real community needs, that is, spending time with the people, attending their events and talking with them, when your religion and ethnicity differs from theirs and your efforts may be rejected. What can one do in such a situation?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, very good question. Thank you very much. Yeah, sometimes it can be very difficult, because of our settings, like you mentioned, when your ethnicity and religious or your faith differs from the particular community you are exploring. I agree, but most times, if you come if you come giving, you're likely not going to be rejected than when you come asking. So if you come giving, you come providing a solution, from my experiences, most times it's been easier for people to listen to you. The challenge is if you do not live in that environment or you are not known. If it's somewhere you live in and you are known, it's very, easier for you to engage. But if you're coming to an environment where you are not known and you don't live there, my suggestion would be for you to look at for people within that space who you could first speak with, all right, before going to the larger crowd. So you can look at for one or two persons who may be able to understand your burden and share your values as well. So communicate that too. And that person or those people will be the people to help you communicate this to the larger society or the larger community. That will help you greatly.
Thank you very much, sir. We move to Ikeja now. Ikeja, please unmute and ask your question.
All right.
Ikeja, we're waiting for you. American Space Abuja, please get ready.
Hello, good afternoon. Can you hear me now?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, good afternoon, Mr. Osazee. Thank you for the great delivery. Thank you so much. I'm Amina Shiobola. Thank you again for shining the spotlight on my city, Osogbo. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, I had a school I was operating. Sadly, we had to wind down operations like end of last session. So I'm currently in Lagos, and there's this buzz about volunteerism in Lagos. And I said, okay, why not? It's something that catches my, is more like
attention.
Something that I'm aligned with, and especially when it has to do with things that borders on education as well. So recently, I joined this group. Okay, I finished taking a course recently in School of Politics, Policy and Governance. So one of my colleagues, she was saying things about, okay, she's going into in Lagos on leadership and personal stability kind of workshops for the youngsters in secondary school. So I'm like, why? Let me join. I would like to partake in that. And good enough, we've done a few outreaches. So along the line, different issues are beginning to come up, and I just want to seek clarification. Number one, I came in with the notion of volunteerism. I'm just joining her team to volunteer. So I'm ordinarily paying for t-shirts. We've paid for t-shirts, caps. Of course, recently she saddled me with the job of curriculum design. Yeah, and then when we go for outreaches, we pay for tea-fare from our pockets. So recently, there's another notion of we need to pay monthly stipend to keep the runnings going and all of that. So at that point, I was like, as a volunteer, am I supposed to pay monthly stipend? Am I now a partner in maybe a future organization coming on? Like she says, she hasn't registered an NGO yet, but it's something in the pipelines. So I'm like, I need clarification so I know not to overstep my bounds. So in my head, it plays off as, am I coming in now as a partner, considering that I'm already saddled with curriculum design? I go on outreaches, the transfer fare from my pockets and all of those other things. So I just needed clarification so I don't take it in a different light than she's bringing it, and then we get on a wrong footing, so to speak. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good to hear from you, and good to know you're from Osogbo. And yeah, so, well, I understand the scenario very well, and I would say that it is important to, even when it is not a registered outfit yet, but it's important to have some policy document. If the the visionary or the person. It's a good, first of all, it's a good thing that you saw it and you're willing, and your motive is very clear that you will love to volunteer when it has to do with things like this. But whether or not you have not, it's not been registered with the Corporate Affairs Commission, there have to be certain policy documents that you must request for as a volunteer. I'm sorry I didn't mention that while I was speaking, but it's good you're asking those questions. You've got to ask questions. If you are now coming to an organization to say, I would love to volunteer with you, please, it's very important for the sake of maintaining relationships and building effective relationships. Please ask the right questions. Request for if they have any policy on volunteerism. What is the extent to which, what is the expectation of the organization for volunteers? And to what extent are they going with that? So you've got to read that document very well, and you've got to, of course, you also need to ask what is covered. What are you covering for volunteer? There are some organizations who say because you're volunteering, even though you are not a paid staff, but our health insurance covers you. Okay, health insurance covers you. You can take lunch, while we are taking lunch. So you've got to ask those questions and be very clear on them to ensure that your relationship is not affected. So having said that, based on the way you also met with the person, it's possible you are both just starting out something, together. It's sometimes people may not know what to really ask for. They should rather ask for partners instead of volunteering. All right. So if they are said, okay, can you come on board so that we can be doing this together as partners? I may be the founder, but I want you to be a partner in this. I want you to be, so that you know that the seat you are sitting is not just volunteering to go. So every cover you are bringing out to spend is an investment, and that is part of your contribution to the organization as a partner. And you've got to document all that down. And I also think that it's an opportunity for you to learn. If you have the mind of going to join someone to volunteer in whatever idea the person started, that means you could initiate an idea tomorrow. And so you should learn from that and ensure that you also do it very well and put these policies, on ground, and differentiate from, between volunteering and partnership, so that when a person is on board as a partner, he does not withhold. If you need contributions, you need stipends to pay and all that. So only partners will be tasked to do that, but not volunteers. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, sir. We now move to Window on America, Abuja. So Abuja, unmute yourself and ask your question. American Space Abuja. Then US Embassy Abuja, also get ready.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Osazee, for an insightful section. I run an NGO here in Abuja, a volunteer involving organization. So I want to ask, why is it that most donor agencies don't look at volunteerism as a thematic area? When it comes to funding, you can hear they are giving out funds for democracy and good governance, WASH, STEM education, and all that, climate change, forgetting that volunteerism is a focus area on its own. There are a lot of work to do around volunteerism, like its advocacy, capacity building, engagement, volunteer retention, volunteer appreciation, rewards, and all that. So they don't look at that area when making requests for proposals or giving out funds. So I want to ask, why is it that donor agencies are not considering volunteerism as a thematic area? Thank you.
Well, that's a funny question anyway, but when it has to do with, though we are not talking about funding of our project right now, but maybe I'll just share a little light since that's not a topic. When it has to do with funding, let's not forget that there's no free money anywhere. There's no free money anywhere. Most of the fundings we call grants and what have you, they are taxpayers' money. And usually donors have a direction, they have a mission, they have a goal. Take, for example, let me give an illustration. Someone came to me to ask for funds. He has a project. I'm a Christian, but being a Christian, I have certain problems that I would love to see being solved in the Christian space. All right. For example, one of those problems, for example, is our unity in diversity. So if you have a creative idea, for example, that solves the problem of divisions for Christians being divided over social media, blah blah blah, all of that, I would pour whatever resources I have into that because it's my interest area. So it's my money. I have my money, so I'm the one donating. So I also, to a large extent, decide what that money is going to do. And that's why I taught you crowdfunding, I taught you family and friends, I taught you local resources, looking for other means to get resources. I didn't really measure on grants, But then if you're now coming to look at donor agencies, the first thing is not to look at their money. The first thing is to look at their thematic area. Now, if you don't see volunteerism among their thematic areas, that means they are not looking at it. It may not mean they're not looking at that, but that is not very pressing as other thematic areas that you may see there. And if I would advise you, you can look at your thematic area or your NGO critically again. Of course, volunteering could be your goal, but are there other ways you can still achieve volunteerism through good governance and democracy that has funding from funding agency, through entrepreneurship that has funding, through civic participation, through girl-child education, through digital literacy, so could you mirror your NGO thematic areas? So it is left for you, if you need funding from the donor agencies, it is left for you to probably expand the scope of your own thematic area to be able to meet with the funding agency. Otherwise, then you've got to source for funds for your own, initiatives, however you're able to do that locally. I hope that answers your question. Maybe when there's a topic on funding, you can get that much more answered. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Let's go to American Center, Lagos. American Center, Lagos, please unmute and ask your question. Then Medugri, please get ready.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Mr. Osazee, for the lecture we just received now. So I have a few questions I just want to ask. You mentioned that during your ICT clubs in secondary school, that you encountered a problem where, please, can everyone hear me?
You're audible.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so you said you encountered a problem where the secondary students were not coming, even though you have a gift to give to them, even though you have something for them, which is your impact, but they just were not coming. But so you had to do something, give them incentives in order to attract them to come and gain something that they actually need. So I have a question for you on that. Using our country as a perspective now, how do you get people to buy your dreams? Because you gave us an assignment in the end, you said we should find a problem we want to solve. So if we finally find a problem and we intend to solve that through volunteerism, and you said Jesus even had to work with 12 men as team. So you can't do it alone, definitely. So how do you get people to buy your dreams, both as prospective teammates and also people you are reaching out to, especially in this situation where nobody will work unless there is something for them and you don't have incentives? You're going to do it within your budget. Then number 2 is, in situations where you want to volunteer for sensitive fields, a lot of sensitive fields though, let's take for example child marriages, but a lot of sensitive field is an umbrella. So how do you still move forward to solve this problem, even in the face of opposition? Should you desert it and let it go, or for peace to reign, or should you walk into that trouble? Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. That's a very good question as well. And let me start by.
Oh, go ahead, sir. There's a second person. Go ahead.
Okay, so let me start by talking about your first question. Getting people to buy your vision. I was in a class a few days ago, and for my postgraduate course, and my lecturer was talking about politics, and I realized that politics is our everyday life. You need to be able to influence people. You need to be able to influence people. You need to be able to, through storytelling or by emphasizing what you found out in such a way that calls people attention, right? So how to tell your story is very important. A very good way to attract people to yourself, or to your vision, which are partners, is by knowing how to tell your story in a way that nobody tells it. Take, for example, if on a weekly basis, the particular problem you wish to solve, you go on LinkedIn, on your LinkedIn profile, or any of your active social media profile, and consistently share data, verified data about the challenges in that field. And every time you have an opportunity to speak to people anywhere, within few seconds, people could see the burning in your heart about how you really want to solve that problem. You will see people beginning to connect with you. For example, as I'm speaking with you right now, my laptop is on. I saw people saw my name and took it. I could see people connecting with me on my laptop, on my social media already. An unknown number just sent me a WhatsApp message. I don't know how he got my phone number, but I mean, within the American spaces now, people are already connecting who may think that I had mentioned something that is relevant to what they want to do or they are already doing. And I'm sure they're like going to reach out, for partnership or to volunteer or something. So throughout this speaking engagement, as you listen to me, you can discern or you can learn to see what exactly are my thematic areas from my illustrations, from my examples. So the more you tell your story with every opportunity that you have, the more you attract people to yourself. Usually, instead of you finding them, you will see them connecting with you, especially the power of social media. Let's not underestimate the power of social media. All right. So keep sharing your story online, share the things that you found out, the problems that you found out in a way that you are calling for people. You can do a call to action when you share those stories. All right. You can just do a call to action for people to connect with you. Or if you're interested in working around this area, please message me or the inbox section. Drop your phone number in the inbox section, and then you start sorting. You start sorting to check those who you think could really work with you. So my solution to that is storytelling, telling your story very well. All right. The second question is on development work in sensitive areas. Yeah, I agree with you. Certain areas are very sensitive, like child marriage, especially in those communities as well. So if you have a passion to deal with issues around that, I would like to suggest to you to ensure that you start by ensuring all your legal documents are intact. So you don't just go into sensitive issues without, first of all, either registering a non-governmental organization with the Corporate Affairs Commission of Nigeria, or working, choosing to work with an existing, institution who is already doing a work around that regard and has gained some grants there. If peradventure you are starting something new, then you need a legal advice. You need a legal advice because you are going into a sensitive area. So keep documenting and planning, but you need to have a legal team to help you in maneuvering all of the challenges that may be surrounding works and development works around those environments. I believe if you do that, you would be able to thrive in that space, right? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We now move to Medugri.
Sorry, there's one more question from Lagos here.
Okay, one more question. Okay, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mr. Osazee. Hello, good afternoon, Mr. Osazee. My name is Onyelan Daniel. My name is Onyelan Daniel. First and foremost, I want to appreciate you for today's afternoon lecture. I actually got great value. My question is about in a situation when you as a volunteer, you want to carry out an empowerment project, and for you to ensure the people pay maximum attention and they cooperate fully. In a situation where you tell them to pay a token to ensure they pay maximum attention, is it okay for you to go ahead in that perspective, whereby you use this money as a form of refreshment for them? What do you think about such approach?
All right, thank you very much. Again, yes, so I understand that scenario. Communication is key in this regard. I say communication is key because people must not misunderstand your good deeds. Let not your good deeds turn to evil. That's the goal here. Let not your good deeds turn to evil. So you've got to learn to communicate that very well. Let it be very clear. And you want to solve a problem, all right? If you have the resources to make the people, and the environment conducive while solving the problem, that is fine. But if you don't have the resources, you shouldn't make it mandatory. All right. If you say it is something you want to solve, unless you get the buy-in of those people, you could bring them together, maybe a few set of them, to say, okay, we want to do something like this, and can you organize with yourself? We do things like that when we're in secondary school or even in the university. The lecturer does not have to task us. We just decide and say, okay, since the lecturer is going to do a thing like this, among ourselves, we're going to task ourselves to be able to provide this, and that. So once that is well communicated, it is fine. But a situation whereby you put out an information as though this thing is completely free. I've seen several forms like that. So this is completely free. All right. Even from institutions I never expected. And then you say, okay, click to apply. And then you click to apply, read the first slide. Say, oh, go ahead. And then I click the form to apply. By the time you click the form, then I say, okay, every participant is free to attend, and when coming, you have to pay for you have to pay for a t-shirt of 7,000 naira, even though this is not compulsory, but putting it on the event is very mandatory. I mean, what is that? By the way, you are still saying that you are mandating them to pay 7,000 for the t-shirt. And if they are not able to pay for 7,000 for a t-shirt, they can't participate in that event. So be very sincere. Be straight to the point. All right? Don't deceive people. All right? When people see your comments that say, okay, you're doing this thing for free, you are coming completely free. No strings attached. Let it be no strings attached. But if there are going to be strings attached, communicate it clearly and be sincere about it. and let them know that this is what you will have for it. Sometimes you have to ask people to pay money, and what you are giving them is more than the money they are going to pay. You're saying, okay, pay 2,000 naira, and you're going to get a pack of lunch. You're going to get a branded t-shirt. I mean, the participant already sees that, obviously, this is just needed to cushion something, but it's more than what they are going to get, from the event. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. Please, henceforth, people that are asking questions, please make it brief. We have several people waiting so that we'll meet up with the time. So Meduguri, ask your question. After Meduguri, Calabar should get ready. After Calabar, Oka should get ready before we go to Zaria. Meduguri, go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
I am Zubainat Musafala. Thank you for this wonderful and energetic presentation this afternoon. My question here is that if it happens that one volunteers to work for an organization, institution, or a firm, and it turns to be that that particular organization disregards the value of your volunteerism, or they take your volunteerism for granted. So in this case, withdrawing yourself is the best, or there are some certain indicators one can use to overcome things like this?
Sorry, I didn't hear the later part of your question. Go ahead. Yeah. In that case, when your volunteerism is taken for granted, yes?
Yeah, so withdrawing yourself will be the best, or there are some certain indicators one can use to overcome this?
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that question. So in a case where you are taken for granted or maybe even abused, and misused, because you choose to volunteer, yes, first of all, you want to withdraw, but I won't just say withdraw, I will say report the organization. If you don't report the organization, they will do it to another person, okay? Because even though volunteerism is a non-stipend, it's a not-for-pay, not-for-profit, and what have you, but there are policy documents, like I said initially, for every organization to have for volunteers. And when volunteers are misused, there are appropriate quarters. You can go to a nearest police station. You can also report to civil society groups. All right, you'll watch out for civil society groups within your state. Okay, I think some states, Ministry of Women Affairs also handles these as well. But the nearest police station is a good place to report, apart from just withdrawing, depending on the level of misuse or abuse that may come from just volunteerism. Because if you don't do that, then the organization will continue to do that to other volunteers. But that may be an opportunity for you to help stop, the poor, the whatever that organization does, to to volunteers. Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir. So we now move to Calabar. Oka and Zaria, please get ready. But Calabar, please unmute and ask your question.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Abundant Umo, and early this year, I volunteered for an organization whose director had an attitude averse to the organization's values, right? So this leads me to my question. How do I know if a volunteer opportunity is reputable and trustworthy? And are there any red flags I can look out for, like the character and attitude of the director? Are there any other factors like that?
All right, so thank you. Well, like I said before, there is always a policy document, especially for bigger organizations. That document usually contains all that you need to know about, volunteering for that organization. It differs per organizations, okay? And you should request for that organization, especially if they put out, if they put out an opportunity for volunteerism. You go through the process of applying, and then you are now recruited as a volunteer, to that organization. There will definitely, based on that organization, there will definitely be a working guideline, a volunteer, document that guides you particularly, in your volunteering, task. So you should pay a close attention to that, document. And of course, red flags and what have you, like, it could be anything like the lady from Maiduguri asks, I may not know, what those, the issues she was talking about, misuse, abuse, so red flag could mean, anything, just anything. But whatever the case is, I believe the organizations also have their own disciplinary measures that you can also work with, so my emphasis is request for the policy documents and ensure that you understand the aspects on volunteerism before you sign up to start volunteering for that organization. Right.
Thank you very much, sir. We now go to Oka. After Oka, Zaria. After Zaria, Abuja.
Okay, good afternoon. My question is on the issue of partnership. For instance, are there any laid-down principles or modus operandi to address conflict of interest when partnership is in question? For instance, you are a volunteer organization or persons, and then you seek for a partnership with, say, for instance, a state ministry, and you suggest you apply for their help to help you execute a project because you are not financed, right? And all of a sudden, that ministry takes it up, like, usurps or hijacks that project and starts executing it as if it were their own. Is there any kind of laid-down rule on how to flop such matter, or do you have any personal advice on that regard?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because it happens. So first of all, when you have an idea, if you have the means to trademark your idea, that would be fantastic. So you could trademark your idea. And of course, that means that you would have been registered. Okay, you would have been registered with the Corporate Affairs Commission, either as for profit, or not for profit, social enterprise. Yeah. So it's important that if you have the means, you should trademark it, especially if it's something, if it's a passion or it's an idea that you want to do for long, it's something that you want to continue to do for long, then you should think about trademarking that initiative so that it becomes your own. Because whatever is not registered and trademarked, you can't lay hold on it. That's number one. Number two, I like the fact that you have defined the concept of partnership we're talking about. For example, with the government. I would like to advise that if you have an idea you want to share and you want to partner with the government of your state or whatsoever, what you should share at the first instance is what we call a concept note, not a full-fledged proposal. So develop a concept note, even though you have a full-fledged proposal and a methodology of how you're going to achieve that solution or that idea. But the concept note is more like a very brief and scanty, note that just visualizes the concept, but does not necessarily include the nitty-gritties of the methodologies and the hows to implement it. So you can share the concept notes and still keep the full-fledged proposal until your conversations and your partnerships, gets very matured, and you are sure that you're going to be implementing that together. Because we have seen scenarios where, the full idea and concept is broken down into pieces, and then maybe a politician somewhere just picks his younger brother, and then they picks another person, and then they just go ahead and implement that initiative. I believe that's the particular scenario you're talking about. So if it's something you truly believe in and you're going to, it's your passion, you're going to be doing this for a long time, then I would encourage that you hold on, be patient a little bit to raise the sufficient resources that is needed, register an organization, trademark that particular idea before you now commence partnership, so that you can, take legal action whenever any of the supposed partner, goes out of line to do a thing with that same project without your knowledge. Thank you.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. We will run faster now so that everybody will be captured. I will move to Zaria now.
So do we take all the questions? No? Or
I think that would be best. Okay. Do you have
there are not much
a means to take all of them? Or maybe we can make the responses shorter. I think that would be fine.
Okay.
We can make the responses shorter.
Okay. Yes. So direct responses then. All right.
Yes. Okay. So we go to Zaria. Zaria, please unmute and ask your question.
Good afternoon, sir. My question is in terms of high impact in our community, what is the place of storytelling and how can we use realistic visuals to be able to increase community buy-in? I want you to throw more light on that, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right. Yeah. So, like I said before, you can use storytelling. You can use again, you've got to be available in the community, okay, to get their buy-in. So try to watch out for institutions. I made mention of institutions. Institutions are that local level that are relevant to what you want to do. Community leaders, locate community leaders. It's better for their people to talk to them than you talking to them. They listen to their people more. That's how we are framed in Nigeria. We listen to our leaders very well. Even unfortunately, even when some leaders go wrong. And then, stakeholder institutions there, the community leaders, traditional rulers in that community as well, religious leaders as well. These are people that you can use to get your community buy-in. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, sir. So we move to Abuja. Then after Abuja, Sokoto, please get ready. Abuja, please ask your question.
Thank you so much. My name is DJ Shamfe. My question is, we believe that in every success story, they probably have been
maybe a little bit more audible.
Failure and all in every success story and some projects that you have achieved in the past. And so my question now is, what can I do when a volunteer project fails or do not meet the expected goal? How can I reinforce volunteerism? And secondly, sir, everything that has a beginning has an end. And for the past few weeks now, we're talking about volunteerism, this, that. So I want to ask this question, sir, and I put it to you, sir, with all sincerity. At what point are we going to stop volunteering? There are other responsibilities that we have on the lighter note, but then at what point, you said a part of handing over this and that, having other responsibilities, at what point are you going to, I know as a fulfilled man, as you know, having done other projects and all, but since we know that projects are always available, whether we are here or not, at what point are we going to let the baton and fall back and see our younger ones do as expected? Thank you so much.
All right. From your last question, like I said in my opening slide while I was defining volunteerism, it's not what you do when you have spare time or excess money. It's what you do because you are human. Because you have eyes to see, you have ears to hear, and a heart that still cares. So as long as you are human, you have eyes to see, you have ears to hear, and you have a heart that cares, volunteering continues. And then the second question, I missed that. Sorry. Can you help me rephrase the second question? Anyone could just.
I was saying that. At what point? When the project fails.
Okay. I get it. So, well, when a volunteering project fails, you sit back, examine the causes of failure, look at them critically, work on them, and go again. That's what to do when a project fails. Examine the root causes of why the project failed. It's possible that you didn't carry the community along. Did you carry the community along? Were you very clear in explaining it to the partners, and look at all of that, and then go back again and put those things in place, and I'm sure it will work. You keep trying, but learn from the mistake. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you very much, sir, for that answer. We go to Sokoto now. Sokoto, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Thank you so much, sir. All of us appreciate you for the wonderful job. Too much appreciate you. How can volunteer balance their own peace, please, and the second question is how can a volunteer? All right. Okay.
It's breaking. I can't hear you clearly.
All right. I said, how can a volunteer balance their own needs with the needs of the environment of the community they are serving?
Okay, how volunteers balance their own needs?
With the needs of the community they are serving. Then the second question is, how can a volunteer ensure their work is culturally sensitive and respectful?
Okay, so I think if I hear you clearly, okay.
How can a volunteer ensure their work is culturally sensitive and respectful?
Okay, the first one is how they balance their own personal need, right?
Yeah, with the needs of the community they are serving, yes.
Okay, well, that's basically asking how does the person live anyway. So how does the volunteer balances their own personal needs? Well, a volunteer could always work and use his, maybe you work 3 times a week or something and use the other week to do your business or whatever, to do volunteer works, or you are only available on weekends to do volunteer works, and then at other times you do business or you work somewhere where you get paid and all that, but then at other times you do volunteer work where you don't get paid. So it depends on what you do. It depends on what the person do and how you want to, what amount of time of your time you want to give to volunteerism, and then what you use the other time to do to ensure that you balance your own personal needs. And the second question you spoke on is how do you do projects that are respectful? And of course, I believe we know there was a slide I spoke about identifying needs. So if you recall the slide on identifying need, where I said ensure that it is something that the community needs. So if it is a need in a community, of course, is something that is real, is respectful, and you are working with the community, I believe it will be respectful. I believe you mean that in the light of not, abusing the community. So no one wants to do a project. That is not even volunteering to want to abuse any community. All right. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much once again. So we have 2 questions in the chat box. The first one is asking whether we can get the slides. Maybe after now we will look at it and know how possible that would be. Then the second question is, how can a youth-led volunteer initiative be designed to effectively address the challenges and inspire a term civic engagement among young people? This is coming from, a long-term civic engagement among young people. So I take it again. I don't know if you got me correctly.
I can read it from my screen. Yeah.
Oh,
I can read it from my screen. So I would like to say, I think it will be necessary for the person to watch this video over again, because what that question is asking for the whole section that we have already concluded. So I want to refer you to, please, probably at the American Spaces Facebook or YouTube channel. YouTube, yes, at the YouTube. Yes. I would like you to watch the video again. If you watch this entire video again, that question is totally answered, right? Yeah.
All right. Thank you very, very much, sir. It's been a wonderful time, wonderful engagement, both from your end and from the participants. At this time, to start the closing formalities, I would love to hand over to my colleague in Lagos, Mr. Samuel Ede, for the closing formalities. Mr. Samuel.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. So thank you so much, Mr. Osazee and Dr. Edwin. Thank you. God bless you. So to take over from here, I would like to hand over to Daniel in Abuja for the next session. Daniel, please, over to you. Hello, Daniel.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, please can we dance together for Mr. Osazee? I believe that was a very exciting conversation. Thank you so much, Osazee, for being on our program. We hope that when we invite you next time, you'll be available to share your wealth of experience in this field with us. Ladies and gentlemen across our American Spaces Network in Nigeria, thank you all for joining. We hope that you'll be with us again in our next session next week. Keep a date with us, same time. Bye, everyone, for now.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye, Osazee. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.